Hey, y'all know how I do. Let's get it, let's go. No time to waste. Andrew Wilson crushes Naima from Jubilee on the victim mentality. I've watched a bunch of these videos so far, and I ain't seen nothing. He ain't crushing nothing. But let's get it, let's go.
Do you think male privilege exists?
Yeah, I mean, in a certain sense,
is it greater than female privilege?
I think that we all have inherent privileges, and I think it's important to talk about intersectionality when we talk about privilege. Because,
yeah, but what's the question is asking specifically, do you think that...
Andrew, you don't let me finish my statement.
Because...
You want me to finish the statement because you don't know where I'm going with it.
Yes or no, do men have more privilege in society?
I think some men do, yes. But again, like, I would think that a disabled man probably has less privilege than a able-bodied woman, depending on what his disability is.
If we were to take all women and put them collective as a group, and all men collective as a group, would you say that men are more advantaged or have privileges over women, or that women are privileged and have advantages over men?
Yeah, I would say collectively, men probably have more privileges.
Okay, so now we understand exactly what it is that we're arguing. So Let me just start with this. What about the draft?
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh, that's... Oh, that's all he has, man. Let's watch. I guarantee that's the only thing he has that men don't have. Men do have more advantages than women. They do. Society has set it up to where men have more advantages than women. What about abortion? Women can't even choose what they want to do with their bodies. You want to talk about the draft? You can't do what you want with your body when it goes to the draft. They can't do what they want with their body when it comes to having a baby.
So how is it that men are privileged over women when men can be drafted, women cannot?
Both sexes have inherent privileges. It's just there's more for one sex than there is for the other. There are more privileges for men than there are for women.
Well, that would be an example of when women have a privilege over men. I don't think the draft should apply to anyone, though, to be honest.
It does apply to men.
I know, and I don't even think we should have a draft.
But we do
have
a draft.
No, we don't.
As well.
Yeah, but we do have a draft. We do, descriptively.
I know, and we should.
And how could it be that men, young men especially, can be drafted at the age of 18, 19, 20 years old, be sent to fight wars often on behalf of women who can vote them into those wars, right? How is that a privilege that men have? And what is if you had to pick anything that you could point to for women that is on par with that duty that men have, I want to hear what it is.
I would say probably the societal role of the traditional wife and the inability for certain women, or the promotion of an idea that women should not be allowed to work.
Who promotes that women should not be allowed to work?
You do.
No, I don't.
So you think that women should be allowed to work?
Women have always been able to work.
And you think that outside of the home?
Yeah, of course they've always been able to work outside the home.
That's great.
What does that have to do with anything?
I mean, part of the whole manosphere and like the promotion of these social norms and social rules.
That's where you're wrong. You see,
really?
Actually, you have the more misogynistic view.
No, but I'm against
You have the more misogynistic view. The truth is that what the manosphere would say is that a lot of them say, no, those women need to fucking work, otherwise they're in a position of privilege being at home. So let me ask you this. Are women in a position of privilege?
What manosphere podcasters?
Oh, you hear them say it all the time. Are women in a position of privilege?
Hang on, stop. Byron James isn't saying that.
Stop. Yeah, they do. But here's the thing.
Not saying
I'll demonstrate it for you. Are women in a position of privilege when they're stay-at-home moms?
No.
Are they in a position of privilege when they're working?
Unless I think that they're in a position of equality or equity. That's the goal.
But so then that would mean, by that logic, they're oppressed by being stay-at-home moms.
I think that if they are not using their free will to decide whether or not they're a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah, they're a stay-at-home mom.
Okay.
Are they privileged or not privileged? Is it a privilege to be a stay-at-home mom, or is it not a privilege to be a stay-at-home mom? Or is it a privilege for women to work, or is it not a privilege to work?
I think it depends circumstantially. If a stay-at-home mom is choosing and has her free will to be a stay-at-home mom, and that is an arrangement that she made with her husband, who would also like to do that, then it can be, yes. But if a woman does not have the right to make that choice, and if you are, proposing a society in which we follow strict gender rules and societal rules in which...
Yeah, but gender norms show women always working. Always having worked.
Yes.
The idea is gender norms, what they don't show is that it's a good idea for women to take their reproductive years in work outside of the home. That's stupid. That makes no sense. Yes, of course.
How do you establish yourself in a career if you actively have a child at home?
You establish yourself in a career after your childbearing years, like everybody else would.
So you have to start work at 40?
Versus having children at 40?
But you don't have though. You can
but
have
here's the
children
thing.
and
This is what's so funny.
establish a career.
Do you think then that if you moms split their attention between their children and their career, that their children are going to get as much attention as they would if the mom didn't have a career?
But why should a mother not have the ability to have a career
For
if
their
she-
children.
And why don't the fathers cut their careers and let the mothers like go out and chase their career? That would have been funny if she would have said that.
Then just don't have children.
They would do right, exactly. This is my point, though. Right? It's like, so why wouldn't
but
you?
women make up 47% of the labor force. Literally millions of women do this every day.
Yeah, and you know what happens? Our birth rate. Do you know what it's at?
It's a lot lower, significantly.
Why?
Because women are having kids older. But that's free will. You can't just usurp someone's right to have free will because their job is to have
So let me
babies.
ask you: is it a negative thing that the birth rate is declining to the point where we can't even sustain our population?
Well, we could if we allow immigrants to come in. But
Wait. So you want to replace the population?
no, I'm not a replacement theorist. But
You want to replace the population?
Can we go back?
No. We can't.
No, she just said she wants to bring immigrants in, but again, that's what white people are scared of.
Answer the question. If it is the case that our population's massively decreasing, which you just conceded it is, because women are having children older, which you just conceded they are,
Sure.
and you say that's a good thing,
I'm not.
and then say it wouldn't go down if we had immigrants come in. How's that not replacing the population?
I'm not saying that's a good thing, but I don't understand what your solution is. Should women not be allowed to work until
It's
after
your
they have
internal
children?
critique.
Ladies, don't have babies. Don't have babies with these men. Don't. Do what the Korean women were doing. I think it's the South Korean women. I think it is, where they're not having kids with their men at all until they change the laws to make them more productive for women. No, don't do it. Don't do it. Women could save us right now. Women could truly save us because of what he's saying. That's what all those white T-men are scared of. White men are scared of. Specifically white men. They're scared of losing their power. That's why he's talking about the replacement theory. They think it's replacement when it's like we can bring in more immigrants. Well, we don't, just to make white people feel better. We don't have to bring in immigrants from Mexico or Haiti or places like that, even though I think we should bring in all these kind of different demographics. But, I mean, no, that we don't have to. We can bring in people from England, Germany, France. We just need more people to help the population. But white people are so afraid of being replaced. It's been a fear since the dawn of blacks getting freed from slavery. The replacement theory. This is good.
Peak time now. Tell me
Should
real quick.
women not be allowed to
Tell
work
me real quick.
until they've had children?
Why are you asking me questions of answering them now? It's my turn to ask the question. So
Why is that? Who
because
said
you
that?
just
We're having an open discussion.
you just internally critiqued, and I allowed you for over an hour at least my position, my turn. So real quick, can you
sure.
tell me why it is that when you get to the point where you cannot replace your own population, and you say, well, we wouldn't have a problem with that if we opened it up to immigrants, how is that not you advocating for replacement?
I'm not advocating for complete replacement. I'm not saying people should just stop working and stop having children and it should be entirely up to immigrants. But I mean, if we did have more channels for immigrants to come into this country legally, we might
Would
not be
that
so worried about
replace the
population.
domestic population?
It wouldn't.
What's the problem with doing that, though?
What, don't
I mean,
would
we're
it,
not all humans.
would it replace the domestic population?
It wouldn't completely replace it.
Would it mostly replace
It
it?
would add. Why is it replace? It's adding.
Because it's the people who are okay. Let me ask you this: is it a good thing that Native Americans don't have a lot of kids?
Why aren't they having kids?
Well, is it a good thing that they are or are not? Would you rather see
It
Native
doesn't matter.
Americans having more kids?
I mean, I don't.
Like, why is it a bad thing that we came over here and took land from the Native Americans and replaced their population? Why is that bad?
Well, because we killed millions of people and caused
No,
significant
well,
amounts
no,
of suffering.
actually-
It was human suffering. It was genocide.
Actually, most
I mean,
of
what
most
do you
hang
think,
on,
like,
most of
what do
what
you mean,
killed
why is
most
genocide
of
bad?
She misspoke. It wasn't millions. It was thousands of people that they killed, but they unalived a whole lot of Native people. They did now, and replaced the population with white people. So that's what they fear. He's saying it. He's literally saying it. They fear that another population would come in and do to them what they've done to everybody else. That's what they fear from blacks. That's what they fear from Hispanics. That's what they fear from every other darker group of people in the world. They fear that. They fear that, and he's saying it, and it's crazy to hear. Like, it's crazy.
Most of what killed Native Americans was not genocide; it was disease.
The Trail of Tears killed millions of people.
Okay, that actually no. The Trail of Tears didn't kill millions of people.
Yes, it did.
How many
She misspoke. It was thousands.
millions do you think died in the Trail of Tears?
Let's Google it.
Google it.
All right.
How many millions died at the Trail of Tears?
It says an estimated 4,000 out of 16,000 Cherokee people, forced to relocate. Let me see deaths.
How many millions?
It says estimate that 6,000 men, women, and children die on the 1,200-mile march called the Trail of Tears, Cherokee.
Okay.
So is 6,000 anywhere close to millions?
So let's just look
and
at colonization.
millions.
How many Native American people were killed from colonization? Can you Google that one for me?
Yeah, disease.
How many Native
How
American-
many
no,
were
no,
killed
no.
by disease?
How many Native
Millions?
Americans killed by...
Just to let you know, he's trying to hide behind the word disease, but like the disease is what white people brought over to kill them.
Colonization. It's millions of people.
No, disease killed them. Disease killed the overwhelming amount of
You
Native
know that
Americans.
we used chemical warfare, or not we.
Oh, we did, huh? So we didn't understand anything about how diseases worked, but we were able to use diseases for chemical warfare, huh?
What do you mean we didn't understand how disease works?
When do
I
you
never said
think?
that.
When do you think we understood the disease process?
You know that smallpox blankets that were infected with smallpox,
Total
were
myth?
given and gifted to them. No,
How?
it's not.
How?
No,
Do you-
the fuck it's not.
Okay,
Bullshit.
let me ask you a
It's not a
question.
myth.
You get sick,
Yeah.
and you don't understand how the disease process works because science hasn't discovered it yet. And then you hand a blanket that sick people have used to another person, not
Will
understanding
you
their...
fact check that one too, Brian?
Check it.
Yes.
Which one?
Okay,
Smallpox-
wait. First of all, how many millions were
Check
killed
the
from
smallpox
colonization?
myth.
Get that one first.
In the United States, in North
the
America,
US.
or the
In North
entire
America.
Americas?
Ooh, actually,
including-
if we did it...
You're just goalpost shifting.
I mean, but that's not true. I said that millions
You
of people
said
were
millions
killed
of
through
people
colonization.
died during the Trail of Tears.
Okay.
Stop lying.
All right, then let's include all
Holy
of
shit, stop lying. And also, check, all you have to
But
do
She's
is
not lying. My God, she corrected herself. You stupid fuck.
The part
check
that
the
you said is
disease.
that Native Americans...
All you have to do is check the disease rates. It was 80 to 90% of all natives died from diseases. And by the way, the
question that
smallpox
you were
blankets...
asking-
Let me research.
The smallpox blankets happened hundreds of
Andrew,
years after
calm down.
colonization.
Calm down. The question
The
that you were
smallpox
asking...
blankets happened hundreds of years post-colonization.
The question that you were asking, let's fact check that, but while you're doing that, the question that you were asking is, was the colonization of the Americas bad? And I'm saying...
Okay, look. So he is correct. Yes, most natives died from disease, and it was a leading cause of the death after European contact. How and why it happened? Lack of immunity. Native American population previously exposed to old world disease like smallpox, measles, influenza, typhus, because these diseases were common in Europe and Asia and Africa had developed some immunity over the generations. Africa developed immunity, but Native Americans had no natural disease against them. Massive death tolls. Up to 90% of the indigenous population in some areas were wiped out by disease, collapse of societies, epics. Was it intentional? Most likely, yeah. It says most likely yes and no. Okay, so especially early on, disease spread unknowingly through trade warfare, and travel. However, there was isolated incidents of intentional infection. In 1763, during the Plutonic Wars, British officers of Fort Pitt gave smallpox-infested blankets to the native leaders, one of the few documented cases of biological warfare. Yes, most natives died from old world diseases from the European contact, and yes, Europeans spread those diseases purposely in some occasions, but some occasions it was by accident. So it's both. And in all reality, like, so the smallpox blanket is not a myth. It actually happened. They have one case in 1763. He said it was a myth, but they're kind of both wrong and right at the same time.
Saying, yes it was, because it resulted in the deaths of millions of people.
Got it. So, if the outcome, and that would be a negative outcome, right?
Yeah.
So if,
God, why is that
if Japan wants to keep itself Japanese, is that negative?
For what purpose?
Because they just want to be Japanese.
How are they doing that?
By not letting in any immigrants.
Are immigrants coming to their country and are they detaining them in cages?
Very few are ever allowed to come in, yes. Very few.
I mean, if they're not physically hurting or endangering those people, then I wouldn't say that's necessarily a negative. But I think it depends on the outcome for the Japanese population.
So
as
if the
well.
Japanese, let's just say that they only wanted their domestic population to be Japanese, there's nothing inherently wrong with that.
I don't know.
You don't know?
Can I answer the question? if there's a net negative that happens when the Japanese population self-isolates, then I do think that there's something inherently wrong with that. But I think it's hard to quantify how negative that is to that population.
So, like, if the Japanese were isolating themselves...
It doesn't matter the question, because America is a multicultural society regardless, first. Second, America can't deny anybody anything because we're a nation of immigrants. We didn't start off Japanese. Africa is Africans. European is European. We didn't start off that way. Like, we didn't start off that way completely. So, no, like, he's trying to say he wants the population to be just white. Like, read between the lines of the racist talking here. You can't have it that way. Black people are here. They exist here. And they will for always and forever exist here and may out someday number the white people that live here. If you don't like it, go back to Europe. Go back to Europe.
And their birth rate was decreasing.
Yes.
You'd consider that to be negative.
Yes, if they were losing population, if they were losing a labor force because of self-isolation, if people were starving and people could not make enough money because of
Well, they weren't just starving. They're not starving, but they're just not reproducing.
If people aren't reproducing and they're incapable of reproduction, or...
They're capable of it, they're just not.
Yeah, I mean, if it is hurting that population, then I would say that's a net negative.
Okay, so then if white people aren't reproducing, is that hurting their population?
It depends. Do they want to reproduce?
He's saying it. He's saying it.
Seemingly the primary edict is reproduction, right?
I just want to hone in on it so bad, because if white people actually just stopped being hateful and just researched that they really couldn't ever truly fully be replaced. No population can ever be replaced. The dominant population in a lot of places will always be the dominant population unless war comes in to destroy them or some type of systematic thing comes in to completely eliminate them. But for a white person to acknowledge that any systematic thing is happening, they have to admit that systematic racism exists. Because that would be systematic racism towards whites. And that's not happening. It won't happen. It can't happen. It can't happen. It just won't. Like.
Okay, sure.
Okay, so then if white people are not reproducing, that's harmful to...
Prime example, if there's really a genocide in South America, right? I'm going to give an example of this. If there's really a genocide in South Africa, right? South Africa. If there's really a genocide in South Africa with 90% of the population being black and only 10% of the population being white, why aren't they eliminated completely? Why aren't they eliminated completely? How are they still able to function in that society if there's an actual genocide going on? Think about it. Go back to the Rwandan genocide. The Hutus wiped out over 1 million of the Tutsis. Go to the Jewish genocide, right? Of course we know 5 million people died in the Holocaust. Almost I think it was 1/3. I think it was 1/3. You don't correct me if I'm wrong on this, but it's 1/3 of the population of Jewish people were wiped out from the Holocaust. If there's 90% of the population that is one group of people, which in both those scenarios, well, yeah, actually maybe in the Germany one, but 90% of the population is black. Why aren't they all wiped out? Just asking. That's how you know there's really no. I don't know. It's just. Technically, the Jewish one was a white-on-white crime. But anyways.
White people's population?
Well, if the primary edict is reproduction, then why aren't they reproducing?
Well, because they defer what's happened is there has been a massive campaign to defer all women's childbearing years for college years. This is in every industrial country we look at.
So what are you structurally asking?
I'm asking you this question. I'm asking you, is it inherently bad that white people aren't reproducing?
No.
No, if they
So is it inherently bad, like you just said, that the Japanese people aren't reproducing?
I guess no. If they're exercising their free will. But
what the fuck? How is it bad if the Japanese don't reproduce, but it's bad if they don't, but it's not bad if white people don't?
She said neither one of them are bad.
No, I'm not saying it's bad if either group does. What I'm saying is it depends on the effects to that population and why they're not reproducing. If they're not reproducing as an exercise of free will, and they are happier without reproducing, then why is that negative?
So if we were to look at the mental health outcomes of women who...
He didn't answer the question. You notice that he didn't answer the question. Why is that negative? It's not negative.
Reproduced versus those who didn't. Which group would you say would be happier?
I'm not sure. Which group do you say would be happier?
Well,
statistically, which group is happier?
The group that's statistically happier are women who reproduce and have children.
Okay, but again, that's the whole causation correlation thing, and it feels like
the thing is everything you can say is a causation, right? We look for the primary causation for what is the correlation. We even do this with things like drinking and driving, right? So I could always say, no, it just correlates that drinking in your car leads to more accidents, right? But if it is the case that that's the primary correlate, then we tend to say it's because drinking and driving, these accidents increase. Okay. That's how you would do it.
All right, so
if that's the case, I'm just asking you again the question, right? When you say, it's just correlation, causation, if the primary correlation is that they're having children, and that's what makes them happier, and that women who don't have children are less happy, then wouldn't you say that's a negative outcome?
Yes, I would say that's a negative. But I do just want to ask, so let's say that is a negative outcome. What is your solution? Do you think women should not be allowed to go to college? Do you think women should...
I would just advocate for a national campaign which asks women to keep the traditional family intact because it's going to lead to the most amount of children, and to defer those college age years, just like we did a national campaign to try to move women into college. I would do a national campaign to say, defer those years for childbearing, and you can always go to college later after your kids are grown, or you can do it from home.
That's not fun. That's not the point of college. Did you go to college?
The point of college is to go...
No.
What's the point?
The point of college is to learn while you are young so that you can gain skills that help you in the workforce and develop a career over time. It takes time to develop a career. You can develop the... First of all, most of the people are getting degrees, by the way. They ain't using those fucking degrees in any of those fields, are they? What's your degree going to be in? What's it going to be in? Fucking your mom. No, I'm joking. Film production.
And do you think that you're going to end up a film producer?
Hopefully. That's the goal.
But I mean, do you think that the chances that most people who have a degree in film production are producing film?
I mean, I happen to go to the best film school in the country, but, you know.
Yeah, and just like I just had a woman I talked to yesterday who got a degree in comedy writing.
Oh, well, sorry.
Cupcake,
Yeah, he makes a lot of bad faith arguments and every kind of thing like that every time, man. I'll be hoping like when I watch it, it's good. To me, she's winning. But, you know, whoever, you know, we'll see what y'all say in the comment section. Y'all tell me if y'all think is winning. Don't really care. It's just a great conversation overall to me. But anyways, all right, y'all. Peace. I'm out.